One Bills Live, and joining us in studio now, Bills team reporter Maddy Glab for the latest edition of Mock Draft Watch 6.0.
6.0.
Which is already available on BuffaloBills.com if you'd like to take a further look into the latest statistics. But Maddy is here to break them down for us. So what is the headline of Mock Draft Watch 6.0 if there was one?
Okay, headline of Mock Draft Watch 6.0 is the fact that defensive tackles weren't the favorite this time around. We've seen defensive tackle getting mocked to the Bills in droves since we've been tracking them. And this time around, the favorite was cornerback and edge rusher. So I thought it was interesting to see a bunch of edge rushers in there this time around as well. But your favorites out of the 11 that we tracked this time around, still Kenneth Grant was mocked to the Bills twice, the defensive tackle out of Michigan. He's been the all-time favorite, mocked to the Bills, 16 different times since we've started to track. And the other favorite this time around, a name we have yet to see, edge rusher Landon Jackson out of Arkansas.
Wow.
He got mocked to the Bills twice. All the way up to round one. We also saw a crazy trade, which we're going to talk about, that player who was involved in the Bills trading up quite a bit to number 19, if you can believe it,
where Tampa is,
for a very, very talented cornerback. So that's what we saw in Mock Draft Watch 6.0. But if you're looking at this big picture-wise, we've tracked more than 80 so far. Of those 80, defensive line remains the favorite, being mocked to Buffalo 42 times. So about 50% out of those 42, 29 defensive tackles and 13 edge rushers. Next up, cornerback has been mocked to the Bills 23 times, and number 3 is wide receiver, being mocked to the Bills 10 times.
Can't let it go. Are you guys like me? Like, when you see something being played out or called out a certain way umpteen number of times, aren't you convinced the other way? Like, people are predicting this to happen too much. There's no way that's going to happen now. It's almost like it's appeared so many times, it can't happen. Like,
Kenneth Grant has no
That's what I'm
shot.
talking about. Kenneth
Grant has no shot at being a Buffalo Bill.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, we've seen it so many times. Now I just don't believe there's any way that's going to possibly happen.
Okay, well, let's jump back to last year because I have this all available to me right now. The favorite names last year were Adonai Mitchell out of Texas and Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU. Mitchell was mocked to the Bills 36 different times, and Brian Thomas Jr. was mocked to the Bills 34 different times. The Bills didn't even stay in the first round last year.
Those guys were gone.
They were gone.
They were gone.
Yeah.
Adonai Mitchell went a little bit later, though, right?
No, he was second round.
He was second round.
The Bills
he was
passed
second
on
round
him.
pick of the Colts, I want to say.
He
was like 39 or something, but Thomas went early to the Jags. Well, good. I'm glad that's kind of what recent history says anyway.
Yes.
And when you're picking 30, it's like we've said, so many things can happen in front of you anyway that it doesn't really matter. We've got a handful of players here to highlight in this edition of Mock Draft Watch 6.0 because these are names that have been associated with the Bills. So we know there are people here in Western New York still on the wide receiver train. Even though in each of the last 2 drafts, the first pick the Bills have utilized was on an offensive pass-catching player. Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid in there. So I am not convinced they are taking a receiver. I'm not saying it won't happen, but I think it's on the unlikely side of likely. Nevertheless, let's just amuse ourselves.
That's what we're doing.
With Ohio State wide receiver Emeka Egbuka.
We're amusing ourselves because if it's been mocked to us, why not? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the option. Let's talk about who this player is. So Emeka Egbuka obviously comes out of Ohio State. He's been mocked to the Bills 3 different times, so we've seen this a few times throughout the last few weeks. 6'1", 202 pounds. He had 1,000 receiving yards last season along with 10 touchdowns, was a team captain. And when you talk about Emeka Egbuka to other people who know him, he has glowing reviews about who he is as a player and as a person. obviously won the college football playoff last year, so was involved in some really big games. When you turn on the tape, he's a fluid receiver with good size and strong hands who works mostly in the slot. I think Egbuka can make tough catches in traffic. He does a great job of adjusting his body quickly to make a catch that throws off the defense of how do we play him. He's got a baseball background, so I think that kind of shows up with the quick reflexes that he has. And I think Egbuka does a great job of looking upfield when he gets his hands on the football to get as much yak as possible. What do you like about Emeka Egbuka?
Is he too much like Keon?
He's too much like Khalil Shakir in my estimation. Because I watched him play. I think I watched like 4 of his games. He's Khalil Shakir. That's who he is. He's the same guy. Short to intermediate routes, good at getting separation, whether it's man or zone, knows where to sit down. They use him occasionally on end-around stuff and some gimmick plays, but not so much because they have more explosive guys on their roster. Like Donovan Smith is their superstar receiver, who's only a sophomore. But I watch him play, and I'm like, we got a guy that does all that already. His name's Khalil Shakir, who just signed an extension, by the way. So, I mean, he has return experience like Khalil Shakir. So I don't know. Nice player. I like him.
Right.
But I think we already have that player on the roster.
That's exactly what I wrote. Like, if we were in the 5th or 6th round or 7th round, like, I could understand, like, adding another wide receiver who maybe has similar traits to somebody else on the roster because maybe you want to grow him into becoming something similar, but not the 1st round.
Yeah. And I don't even know if he's going to be a 1st round pick. I think he's more of a 2nd round selection because while he is really good at a lot of things, he is not like excellent or superstar potential. I think he's going to be a very solid player in the NFL. He'll be a 2 or a 3 for some team and be productive. But I think with him, especially having played 4 years of college, he is what he is. And I don't think I think there's a limited ceiling for him. I think people look at his tape and they say, all right, this is what he is. And if he can do that in the NFL, great. But he's never going to be more than that at the NFL level.
Yeah, he was very productive, though. He had 1,000 yards last year, 81 receptions, 10 touchdowns.
Yeah, he's got 2,000-yard seasons.
He's got some production, and he's consistent.
It's true.
So he does bring something to the table.
Yeah.
For me, that position in particular strikes me as one that the Bills are going to be, like you said, Brownie. The last couple of drafts and the fact that Josh did it last year with different guys from the year before, I think it has a chilling effect. I mean, how many guys, how good a guys do you need when you got Josh?
Exactly.
I'm not saying we don't have good guys. I think this year's group already is an upgrade over last year's group.
One important thing to note about the mock drafts that I've seen Emeka Egbuka mock to us at number 30 is because I think before the Bills are on the board, you're seeing a lot of the defensive linemen already off the board. You're seeing a lot of the corners gone, and you're seeing a lot of the safeties gone. So it's kind of like these mock drafts that have him going to us at number 30. It's like, what else is available? And at that point, if that's what's available, not saying he's a bad player at all, but maybe the Bills think about, well, maybe wide receiver doesn't make sense for us here. Let's move out.
Yeah, I could see that happening more than them taking a receiver.
Now, you know what I've been saying, though, Maddie. What do you think the odds are that they do pick at 30?
I think if we see a run on defense early, I think they move up or they move back. I think it makes so much sense. And more of the mock drafts that I've been seeing lately, the run on defensive positions is starting earlier than they have in the beginning.
I have a fear.
Maddie knows what's up.
I have a fear that what we're going to witness is something similar to the receiver run we saw last year. Bills were in the market for a receiver. We saw a receiver run. Bills are in the market for a defensive tackle, and I think you're going to see the defensive tackle run start right around 19, 20, 21, somewhere in there. And if you look at the teams that come after them, you can make a case for defensive line for about 5 out of the next 6. And I could see a run starting there. My hope is there's value on the board at corner. So, defensive tackle class is run dry here in the first round in terms of value. Let's pivot to corner. Because we can get the 3rd best corner in the draft at 30. I would be really happy with that, and I'm kind of hoping that's how it
Well,
unfolds
last year,
if there is a run.
Brian Thomas, who was like the fourth guy that we had always named in that wide receiver crew last
Right.
year, he got taken at 23 by Jacksonville. And he got down, and then he got to 28, and the Bills and Chiefs made that
Switcheroo.
big switcheroo. So from Xavier Worthy at 28, the next 10 picks, 6 of them were one position, wideout.
Yep.
Worthy, Pearsall, Leggett, Keon, Ladd McConkey, Jalen Polk. 6 of 10 picks were one spot.
Yeah,
that's
and
a run.
And a run had already
That's a
started
run.
a little bit higher than that. So, yeah, the
Right,
cupboard was getting
Brian
bare
Thomas
right quick.
was the guy, the last guy of the upper class. He was like the fourth guy.
Yeah.
Those top 3 guys, Adunze, who is it?
Marvin
Adunze,
Harrison
Marvin
Jr.
Harrison, Malik Neighbors.
Yep.
And those 3 guys, everybody knew they were starters, number 1 guys. Here we go. And then it got to where, okay, I think it's, Brian Thomas Jr., whatever. And sure enough, it was at 23. Man, oh man,
Yeah.
it was a fast and furious wideouts right at the end of the first, beginning of the second.
All right, so if defensive tackle is scrubbed clean, corner value doesn't look good, edge rusher could be a pivot for the Bills at the end of round 1, and there's a guy getting mocked. How popular is this guy of late?
5 times, so he's in the 3rd tier of names we're seeing.
Okay.
So Kenneth Grant is the favorite. Then we see Maxwell Harrison, the cornerback out of Kentucky, has been mocked to the Bills 8 times. And then there's a group that's been mocked 6 times. So Donovan Ezeiruaku is right there at 5 times.
Yeah. This is an interesting pick for Buffalo because he doesn't fit the physical stature that they usually look for at defensive end. He's only 6'2". He's got 34-inch arms, though, which kind of help make up for the lack of height. And I don't think he ran. He did not run even at his pro day.
I didn't see a time for him.
He didn't run at his pro day either, which a lot of players are strangely doing. But
know.
It makes you feel like they're trying to hide something.
He's a small guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of like, I guess he's like Jerry Hughes size, 6'2",
248.
40 something. So yeah, it's not the typical defensive end prospect the Bills usually sign up for, but it's hard to argue with 16 and a half sacks.
I know, right? That's the thing. With Ezeiruaku, you have production, 16 and a half sacks. Last year, he led the FBS. He won college football's top defensive end award, the Ted Hendricks Award. He was the ACC Defensive Player of the Year last year, 28 sacks in his career, and like you said, Brownie, undersized, but what shows up on tape are those arms, 34-inch arms, and he uses them for stunts, to slip off blocks, to pull quarterbacks in. It makes Ezeiruaku look longer than he actually is. He's a hard hitter that forces fumbles. 6 forced fumbles in his career. He knows how to get to the quarterback and affect him. He has some bursts. Once he gets going, I think Ezeiruaku shows off his speed, but undersized, and does it make sense for the Bills? He had a productive career with Boston College. I believe with good coaching, Ezeiruaku can continue to develop as a player, but does that make sense for the Bills at number 30?
Yeah, and there's also questions about him holding up against the run, setting the edge, all of those things, and those are important things, at least in terms of how the Bills run their defense. I thought he had a good set of pass rush moves. Like, he's got a rip move, he's got a spin move, and he has this double-handed swipe move where he just knocks the arms of the offensive tackle off him. That's really effective. So he's got skills. I think teams are going to take a long look at his ability to hold up in the run front, because there's some people that even think when he first starts in the league, he's only going to be a pass rush specialist until he figures out the run defense part.
Yeah, you look at his athleticism and gifts. They got this pie shape. He's got a great 40 time. His shuttle time's great. His vertical's great. His 3-cone's great. His broad jump's great. And he's got those long arms. But his arms, hands, height, and weight are all at the bottom of the class. Arms, his hands, weight, height, he's got nothing.
Yeah, he had a 35.5-inch vertical, did the 3-cone in under 7 seconds, which is a good indication of an agility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm
like under 7 seconds for a DB is good. He's doing it at pass rusher.
he strikes you as an overachiever, one of those guys, because he's short, he's light, his hands are small, and everything else tests great.
He uses that lack of height to his advantage because a lot of times you'll see him come around the edge and he'll dip his shoulder under the tackle because he's so short. But the thing is, in the NFL, tackles are long, man, and they'll just
he's not strong. I mean, his bench press thing was very low. I mean,
22 reps.
So he's he is not. I don't know if he's a first rounder because of his measurables.
Yeah, I think he's a borderline first rounder, and maybe that's why he's getting mocked, Maddie, to the Bills because they're like, well, he'll probably still be on the board. I'll give him let's give him Ezeiruaku.
We don't know number 30, 31, or 32. Just throw something at the team.
Yeah, that's a little bit what we have here. And I don't think I think if you're a team like Buffalo, think about this. That's mock draft mentality, right? I mean, they're like, give him that guy.
Here's who's left.
Yeah.
I think teams are not like that at all.
Well, no, because it actually matters to them.
Yeah.
You get a mock drafter, you get, it's like 11 o'clock, his deadline's 11:30.
Right.
I've
and
done
he's just
20 of these already.
Somebody on defense, just Ezeiruaku, let's put him in there. Put him in there.
And I'll say this
seriously,
too.
you know that happens.
And I'll say this too. There's things they don't know. Like for instance, some of these guys have some red flags about their character.
True.
And there are teams. I think Buffalo's like this, where they're going to listen. He's off our board.
Yeah, or at least they'll put a red mark next to his name and be like, hey, let's just be wary of this because this could, going to affect the grade.
If he drops 2 grades below, if he drops 2 rounds below where we think he is, we may take him two rounds later. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
That kind of thing. So, so some of these guys have, the mock guys don't understand the mentality of the teams.
They're not in the building.
And, there are certain things the teams hold in more high regard than mock drafters do.
Very true.
So,
all right, so the last player that we were going to focus on is one that I don't think anybody feels we would even have a chance of getting a whiff of, and yet somebody mocked a trade up for the Bills, and if they can land this guy, I think you should be pretty dang happy.
right.
I am in love with this player. I hope that he slips a little bit to get somewhere near within Buffalo's reach of trading up. So this mock draft was from PFF. Dalton Wasserman mocked cornerback Will Johnson out of Michigan to Buffalo at number 19. So the Bills are moving up quite a bit. Tampa Bay sits at number 19 to go grab this corner. I hadn't gotten the chance to watch him yet because I felt like he was so out of reach. Why watch one of the top corners when he's going to be off the board? But if he's mocked to us, I'm going to turn on the tape. And my, oh my, I was mesmerized by Johnson's film. He has incredible instincts, plays the position like he was born to play cornerback. He has a knack for finding the end zone when he picks it off. Johnson is a hunter who oozes with confidence. Everything looks like a big play for Johnson. He's athletic, has a tall frame, can read and anticipate super effectively. 2 interceptions last season, 2 touchdowns. 3rd team AP All-American. He missed time with a foot injury last season. Injuries have been something that's been a part of his past, so that's a question mark for him moving forward. But my, oh my, what a talented player.
Yeah, and, people are like, well, he didn't have as good a 2024 as a 2023 season, but I think he was playing with the turf toe injury, so he wasn't as effective, and then after 6 games just kind of shut it down. The thing that I noticed about him is he plays corner in a little bit different way than a lot of college prospects I've seen over the years. You know how corners sometimes will get caught peeking at the quarterback in the backfield. He doesn't do that. I think he locks on to the receiver, and I think he does film study and understands how that receiver runs his route, and he anticipates where the ball is going based on how the receiver is running his route, not by peeking at the quarterback to see where he's looking. He relies on his knowledge of the receiver's route running, and I think that's why he gets as many interceptions as he does.
It's so good. Okay, if he's available at 19, Do you think
19.
Did they?
the Bills have an opportunity to trade up for
All right,
him?
I'm gonna answer
they
that
didn't,
question.
They didn't say what we're giving up, I believe.
Come on
Yeah,
now.
you gotta
You'd
give
have
up-
to give up an awful
Let me
lot.
quickly scroll through, but
You'd
I
have
don't
to give
think
up
it
what's
was
190. Well,
You'd have
for
to
this
give up a
Rich
lot.
Hill on the Rich Hill value to get up to 19.
there. Tell us, Tasker.
It's 278 points.
Okay, no, they did. Okay, trade terms. Bills receive number 19 pick. Bucks receive number 30 and number 62.
Yeah. So you're giving up your 1 and one of your 2s to do it. That's pretty steep.
It's still not enough. I mean, they'd be getting a bargain.
200 and
They might
that's- yeah,
ask
it's
for.
200
They might also ask for the 173 pick as well. So you get 30, 62, and 173 to move up to 19. I'd do it for that guy.
Hold on a second.
For that guy.
We did a podcast last week, and I talked about a move up to, and I want to say it was like 19, and you were like, "No way, Jose."
That's for last year. That's last week.
Last week was last year in
We're in
Tasker.
we're in mock draft city here. Let's go.
We're drinking the
the hell
Kool-Aid,
changed in
everybody.
5 days?
We're
If you
drinking
can
the
do it for the 2
Kool-Aid.
picks they said and keep the 173 pick, yeah.
Now, what we
I'm
try to
okay with
do, what we try to do is use different draft value charts. So you're saying it's how many points on your chart?
It's 278 on the Rich Hill part.
Okay, so on mine, I've got it at 255 points,
Right.
and under that logic, I could get that pick by giving him 62, no problem with
Right.
pick 30.
Pick 30 and
and
62.
it would be more than enough.
Well, then you
by
might
about
get
20 points or so.
Well, if you're going to do that, then you'd probably get back a
Might get a
fourth
7 back.
rounder.
You might get a 7th back
Fifth.
or a 6th.
Yeah.
Which would be fine.
Yeah,
I Will Johnson would start day 1. That's
Heck
the thing.
yeah.
Like, you need a starter at corner. If
What
you
about his
believe
injury?
that much,
What
Are
about
you
his injury
concerned
history?
about the injury history?
yeah, it's a concern. I mean, the reason he hasn't tested is because of some lingering hamstring injury. That's a concern. Because let's not forget, I mean, corner is a high impact position where you're operating at top speed, changing direction at top speed all the time. If you have a player that's got an issue there, and look, you got to dive into the medical history, and then your doctors have to make a projection as well.
Yeah,
Like, hey, we like this player, but he's pretty much only a one contract guy. Like, we'll have him for 4 years, and then the injuries are going to start piling up. We cannot sign him to a
Right.
second contract. You don't draft those guys in the
No,
first round.
no.
Right. Right.
And I'm not saying that's what Will Johnson is. I'm just using it as an example. But that's what that's
They're
where
gonna
you
do their homework.
really need to be able to rely on your medical doctors to say, hey, he's going to be fine. You know, he had a soft tissue injury here. It's not chronic, and this turf toe thing,
Yeah.
you know, shouldn't be something that comes
They-
up again. Blah blah blah. for
They
A, B, and C.
transpose this injury and what they can tell about it to other guys who have had that injury, and there's as you can imagine, there's a ton of them, and they'll say, and they may even get a thing where, like the Boza signing, where he's had some soft tissue stuff. Your sports science people may say, you know why? It's because they're not doing this, and this. If he does this, and this for us, he'll never get injured with soft tissue. That kind of stuff happens. You get sports science people who are just as confident as coaches are in their ability to affect players in their career.
Yeah.
So there's some of that going on as well. But yeah, if you think he's not going to be able to hold up physically, no way.
Yeah.
No
The
way.
interesting thing for me was, well, first of all, it's hard not to have your eyes fall out of your head watching him with interceptions because 3 of his 6 interceptions the last 2 years went for touchdowns.
Oh, and he
Like,
looks
he took
good
him
doing
back.
it too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
But
I
here's
mean,
the
it's not-
crazy
yeah.
thing, and maybe it's because teams don't throw at him all that much, but he only had 7 pass breakups over the last 2 years in addition to his 6 interceptions. So I don't know whether I should be concerned about that or whether it's just because, and again, when you
Well-
only watch 3 or 4 games, it's hard to kind of get a gauge. Like, do teams just not throw at him and that's why the numbers are low?
You gotta ask yourself that.
You know,
'Cause they're gonna-
NFL teams have done that homework. I
Sure.
don't have the time to look at that much tape.
You'll get an idea of, like, is the guy scared off the throw? And they'll go so deep and say, okay, they always put him on the number 1 guy.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't throw at him. So that's, or they say he didn't always go on the number 1 guy, and
Yeah.
he, all that stuff.
I
goes
think
into the mix.
I think I could be convinced to make this move because there are some that believe he is.
If
the
you don't
best
have to give
corner
up
in the
that
class.
extra pick, yeah. If you can
If
get
he
the
checks
30
out
and the
medically-
160, yeah, that's right.
I'll go run the pick in.
Yeah.
If he's there,
Just make sure you have your track shoes.
Yeah.
On.
I'll say this though. Think about it. If he, well, no, he's there is not there. There would be, high.
Here's
It's
the
19.
other- here's the
so
other-
yeah, that's pretty good.
Here's the other fly in the ointment with this. We were just talking about it at the top of the show. Todd Bowles, the head coach of the Bucs, in no uncertain terms said we need cornerback help.
Oh no!
So I don't know if Tampa's going to be the one
Brownie!
to sorry to throw
Green
a
Bay's
wet
the same-
blanket on your
Green
proposed-
Bay's the same way, aren't
it was
they?
fun for a little.
I think Green Bay and Minnesota, not Green Bay, Minnesota. Green Bay
Well, Green Bay got
not
rid
Green
of Oruwariye,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
corner, and Tampa needs 2 corners to
Right.
start, not one,
Right.
like we do.
right. So,
So-
I
I don't know if they're moving out of there if Will Johnson's still on the board.
and
Okay.
Cincinnati not going to take a defensive guy,
They need defense all over the map.
right?
So, yeah, it'll be tough, but dare to dream. Maddie, thanks for the latest edition of Mock Draft Watch. Your 7.0 going up on Friday?
7.0 is going up on Friday. We're getting there. We're doing 10 total.
All right,
Countdown
so
is
keep an
on.
eye for Mock Draft 7.0 coming your way Friday on BuffaloBills.com.